we've talked about Cade Cunningham a lot on this YouTube channel, as to be expected, franchise
Mm-hmm.
player. So Bleacher Report had an article, and they're predicting him to make his first All-Star game. So I want to know if you think that is a possibility for Cade Cunningham this season.
It's definitely a possibility. I don't think that's a stretch. Obviously, as Piston fans and supporters and watchers, we know what Cade Cunningham stands for. We know what his ceiling is. There was a fun little tweet that went out about Cade, LaMelo, and two other guards I can't remember about their ceiling. And I think Cade has the highest. I think Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey. Those are the four. And I think he has the highest ceiling of all four of those guys. It's a possibility. I just think it's kind of slim still at this moment. Looking and it doesn't have anything to do with him. I think he's going to perform at an all-star level. We just saw him do it last season with the lack of support that he had, averaging almost 23 points a game, 7.5 dimes. He was top 10 in assists. Again, I still think he's a super underrated defender. But unfortunately, just looking at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, which keeps getting better and better and better as off seasons come and go, he's got a lot of guys that he's got to beat out. He's got to get past Dame Lillard in Milwaukee. He's got to get past Halliburton. He's got to get past Tyrese Maxey. He's got to get past Trae Young. He's got to get past the duo in Cleveland. Like, it's a lot of names that, again, I think he can be better than at some point in his career, but it's going to determine on this team success as well, as we've seen with things like Rookie of the Year kind of get taken from him because of team success. I think this is going to kind of play against him as well. That's not to say that the Pistons need to be a top 5 seed. Like, let's say if Cade is like the 8th, if the Pistons are 8th or 9th seed, and I don't know, like say Atlanta and all those teams are like kind of teetering around like 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe there's a range or an argument that Cade has, but it's still top heavy where those teams that are in the top 3, 4 seeds, they have guards that are playing at all-star levels. So Cade is going to have to do a lot in order to make that happen. He's going to have to not just put up his stats. He's going to have to rack up some signature wins where he's the reason to why they're making those moves in that progression. Like, I keep thinking back to the Miami game last season. Cade played fantastic, but he missed a shot the last second. It kind of like honed in on him, and he was obviously emotional about it. He needs some of those moments where he's the one that's putting the team on his back and carrying them to these wins. And he hasn't had that yet. I understand why, but I just think it's a tall task ahead of him right now just because of how strong the Eastern Conference is at this moment.
I do agree with you. And Bleacher Report had a full list of players that they think that could make the All-Star team this year. So we can go through it. So I think Victor Wembanyama is going to make an All-Star team. I think it's just any like article list, they have him like top 3 in like every category. Like they think like Rudy Gobert's not going to win Defensive Player years anymore. I think Victor is probably going to win it because he's just a beast.
He should have won this year, I think.
Yeah, he really should. Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to be very careful with saying this. I like Jalen Williams. I just don't understand the hype. I don't get it, man. Like he's a good player. Agree. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like a lot of these, like, got like I don't want to like make fun or slight anybody, but like a lot of the analytical people that write these, like the stats guys, the stat nerds, if you will, they love his advanced numbers, and I think that's where it comes from. Which Williams, I think he's a good player, but I think number 3 is more realistic. His teammate Chet Holmgren was number 3 on their list. I think Chet has a very good chance of making an All-Star team, being kind of like that number 2 next to SGA. I could totally see that. Guy we talked about a little bit at the top of the podcast, Alperen Sengun. I think that's a good possibility for him to make an All-Star team. If he has another season like he did last year, who's to say he can't make an All-Star team? I mean, had a really good season. Cade Cunningham was number 5 on their list. To your point, a lot of competition at the guard spot. But the way I'm thinking, maybe they get voter fatigue. Maybe they want to see a fresh face. Maybe they want to see someone new. Maybe they're sick of seeing Trae Young and all those guys every year. Maybe the fans, turn on a Pistons game and Cade's going crazy. because I remember there was a point where he was averaging like 30 points a game towards the end of the season, and he was just going like berserk. Maybe, Cade comes out like that towards, maybe the middle of the season. Jamal Murray, which I'm still surprised he has not made an all-star game throughout his career.
Me too.
He's so due to make an all-star team. Congrats to him for signing a new contract too. I think he signed like 4 years, $200 million.
Oh yeah.
Jamal Murray, number 6. Evan Mobley was number 7. I think he's going to have to block a whole lot of shots. I feel like the front court in the East is, I don't want to say it's weak, but there is some competition there. Desmond Bane was number 8. I don't know. It really depends on how healthy Ja is, because I think Ja makes Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. a hell of a lot better. We saw them without Ja, and they were in roles where they were just not comfortable whatsoever this past season. But they had Desmond Bane 8. Franz Wagner, probably the most hated guy in terms of like U.S. Pistons fans. They don't like Franz Wagner. He just has such a punchable face. I understand why Killian Hayes sucker punched him, man. I really do, man. He just like, you ever like meet someone, you're like, man, you have such a punchable face right now.
I think it was his brother that he punched. I think it was Mo that he hit in the back of the head.
Was it Mo?
Yeah, I think it was Mo. Mo was talking. He like checked him into the side. I remember that play. And it was Mo who got hit in the back of the head. But the punchable face is there. I see it every time I see this guy line up for a shot. I agree with you.
Anytime we play the Wagner brothers, man, like they're just they just irritate me, man. Like, cause like they do like all the like dirty shit when the refs aren't looking, and it's just like, dude, like you're just frustrating the hell out of me right now. I don't know what's wrong with my screen. I think it's because there's sunlight. Let's see. Okay,
there we go.
Oh no, it's still messy. Doesn't really matter if you can see me. I really don't care. I'm just invisible right now. I don't know what it is. Oh man. Gotta love that talent. Okay.
You gotta keep your arm up like that.
Yeah. Oh well. I really don't care. And then to wrap up the list, you got Jonathan Kuminga, number 10. So that was Bleacher Report's top 10, and then it's gonna bug the shit out of me. People listening on the audio side are gonna probably be like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? I can see you fine. Okay, there we go.
There it is.
Yeah, it's just my like ring camera. If the sun hits it, it like acts weird. I don't know why, but I don't look like Casper the Ghost anymore.
Yeah, the comments already got a couple names for you ready. I like that.
Ghost Anthony, I love it.
There it is.
Obi-Wan. Oh, but yeah, I think there's a chance Cade could make it. But to your point, I think we've seen All-Star is such a you have to win type of award type of thing, which I never understood. I always thought like if your team success, you throw it out the window, you just put the best players out there, kind of like how the NHL does it, where they have one player from each team on their All-Star game. I think the NBA should adapt that. That way you get more of just a broader horizon of who's the best player in each team.
Yeah, Cade has a good respect from players around the league. Like we've seen him get a lot of respect, a lot of rave from likes of Kevin Durant, Chris Paul. Like a lot of stars have raved about the upside of him. Paul George, DeMar DeRozan. I can keep going and going and going. But yeah, it's good, definitely going to have to change in terms of how the media sees him. And I mean, fans, you're not really going to be able to tell. They act like Cade is like a complete afterthought in the NBA. Like, no, Cade is one of them ones, and it's taking some time for people to realize it, and that's the Pistons' fault, not Cade's fault. So, like, yeah, the winning really bothers me. Like that should not be the barometer for how some of these awards are given out, like how All-Stars are decided on. Like, I was literally arguing with some of the people from Clutchpoints as they're trying to tell me that Drew Holiday is a better basketball player than Cade Cunningham. Like, no, he's not. The team won. He fits well with that team, but I don't really see the world where he's a better player than Cade. Like, Cade cooks him every time he guards him. Like, I just don't see that. So I think that kind of goes into the Jalen Williams argument as well. Even though he is a really good player, I think, again, if you were to take these players and put them on different teams in different situations, they look different. I think Cade's skill set translates on any team he goes to. You were to take him to let's say the Orlando Magic, they're Eastern Conference contenders, in my opinion. Like, I just think his skill set translates wherever he goes. I don't really see that argument for a lot of other players that people rank and put ahead of him. And again, a lot of that leans on the winning argument, which is like a lot of why the press and the love went to Evan Mobley the way it did over the past few seasons. But I don't know. I think people are starting to open their eyes a little bit more, especially after the Team USA show out that he had last year. But yeah, he's going to have to do a lot more to put his stamp on it. And I think he can as soon as this season.
I do agree with you. I think the lack of winning has kind of put a stain on his name, which I think is unfair because it's not really his fault the way the team was built around him. That's more of a front office failure than a Cade Cunningham failure, in my opinion. But I think once he starts winning more games, I think the respect factor is going to start going up because he's just such a complete player. Can score at all three levels, pass, defend, communicate, leader out there. There's so much winning qualities about him. And I mean, you have to salute, his brother Cannon and his cousin Ashton for just, working with him. Yeah. Shout out to those guys.
Good dudes.
That really are. They did such a good job of just like molding him, getting him ready for the NBA because he's a guy that you want to build around. There's a reason why the Pistons gave him that rookie max extension because they believe in him. They believe that they can build a team around him, and he's a franchise player. So I think there's a chance he could make All-Star. I'm just hoping the media gets voter fatigue and maybe some NBA fans vote for Cade. Just need Zaza Pachulia to say, hey, vote for Cade Cunningham.
Let me ask you a quick question. How good do you think the Pistons need to be in order for him to get to that spot? Because, again, I think they obviously can't be outside like the play-in seedings. They need to be – to me, I think he's got to like hover around like between 8 and 6. I don't think they need to be a top 4 seed in the East. What do you think? How good do you think the Pistons need to be in order for him to get to that spot?
I think if they're a play-in team, like around that 10 seed, and they're winning games – and he's putting up at least 25 a game. And, maybe the assists go up a little bit, which I think they will. Maybe he's around like 25, 5, and 8.5. Then, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at Paolo Banchero last year, him and Cade had identical stat lines. The only difference was Orlando was really damn good last year.
Yep.
If Cade had the same amount of wins, he probably would have been an all-star last year. That's just it goes back to the winning thing with all-stars. And you know how some media members don't always like watch Detroit. I would say the only media member that's like locked in to Detroit is like Chris Broussard. And like that's about it. Right. Like a national media guy. But outside of that, I mean, like most people you listen to, and we're gonna, talk about some other media guys in the next segment. Talking about Jalen Durham, but like most guys aren't really that high on the Detroit Pistons, and that's to be expected. They got to watch other teams, all 30 NBA teams, and it's really hard to like lock in to I guess a team like every night. But we get to see like how special and how talented they are. But I think around that 10 seed is probably where I'm feeling if he does make an All-Star team.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, like I said, it's got to be somewhere in that range. Just again, I don't have any question of what his skill set is going to look like. I definitely think I can see him hovering around 10 assists. Like I really do. I think Cade can establish himself as one of the best passers in basketball. I think that chemistry with him and Jalen Duren is so special. I think it's gotten better as long as they're both healthy and on the floor. At the same time, that's been a big concern up until this point. But we're seeing the best health that's been established around him. Is it perfect at this point? No, but he's shown that he can produce at an all-star level with the worst kind of resources around him. And I think that shows how special he is. And again, one of my Clutch and in this sports media, my dying wish to fight that I'm trying to put on right now is to reestablish the criteria for all this voting and stuff. Because I think it's abysmal how they've done it over the past few seasons. Like the Cade Rookie of the Year thing just drove me crazy how people were able to just put things aside. And then when you look at things like this year, Victor Wembanyama's on a horrible team. Did that stop him from winning Rookie of the Year? Absolutely not. So, like, there's a lot of, like, disingenuous voting and a lot of narratives that kind of just carried, like, through the season. And I really think that needs to stop. I think Cade does have a shot. It's going to be tough. But I think the voting needs to kind of be a little bit more in check with what we've seen over the past several seasons.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think national media members don't do the game any favors when they kind of plant flags really early in the season. Like you can listen to like national podcasts and they're already planting flags for like MVP, rookie of the year.
Yep.
Like some people already have Reed Shepherd as their rookie of the year lock. Like they're already like trying to like draw that narrative. It's just like, well, let's watch them play before we kind of plant those flags. Like I think it's really early to kind of like drive that narrative.
Yes.
But